I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how. In 2008, I finished my second feature film, a zombie movie, kinda. Edges of Darkness was originally intended to be a horror anthology, featuring 3 segments. The only guidelines was the stories had to be set in the same apartment complex, and it was all supposed to take place against the backdrop of a zombie apocalypse. Today, Alonzo Jones, who played the vampire Stan, is joining me to discuss shooting Edges of Darkness. And stick around towards the end of this, and I'm going to break down the business side of this movie. Okay. All right. So this is take 2. I don't know why I did that. I still do it, man. Like in front of the camera, do that. All the audio now just syncs. You know, like you don't have to. You don't have to, if you have source audio, you don't need to do.
But there's nothing wrong with doing the old school shit, man.
Well,
What works, works.
Please, amigo.
Bitch, you must be crazy.
So we're talking about Edges of Darkness today. How did you get involved in Edges of Darkness?
Well, I got involved with Edges of Darkness. I was working on another project, Sunday School. You happened to be the cameraman, the DP on there. And one day I came into the church where we were filming. You stopped me. He's like, "Hey, excuse me. I seen the way you were acting. I liked it or whatever." And I was like, "Thank you." He was like, basically you asked me, he's like, "Would you be interested in doing a horror film?" And I was like, sure. And you were like, "Okay, well, I don't have the character all the way, but I was watching you and I was getting some ideas." And I was like, okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to write a character for me. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is going to be nice. So, yes, I want to do it. And so I was just waiting. You say, okay, cool. You went on back behind the camera, and I'm sitting there. I wasn't even thinking about shooting this that much that day. I was just really thinking about this other project. Yeah, so that's how I got involved with it, because of you. And I thank God for that day.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I remember shaping the character for you, but I couldn't remember for the life of me if I had written it beforehand, but I hadn't. Like, I totally wrote that character for you. I had the idea to do the movie.
Yeah.
Because I did this, I was doing a camera op job on a comedy documentary, and the producer of that, I talked him into funding a movie, and,
Right.
that was going to be that one. So I had the basic idea, but I had no idea about the characters. And, I'd met quite a few actors since I've been in LA, but like you were the first one that I met that, besides having some acting chops, being able to perform, like you had like this a natural charisma that I hadn't seen too much in independent film. I was like this guy could be like on the big screen.
See, and that's why I did it. See, charmer.
Well, it's true, and I still to this day, like I have my issues with the movie, but like you and Shamika are not two of them.
Right, that's good to know. That's really good to know. I mean, like I said, the one thing when we actually got to shooting, I didn't want to disappoint you, because if somebody's they're writing a character for you, or they got you in mind for a character, even if it's already written out and everything like that, and they have faith in you to to fill that role, you don't want to mess it up, because you're always, as an actor, you're always thinking of the next project.
Right.
So if I do good in this one, if you're happy with it, and we get a good rapport, hey, this could turn into a good relationship.
Career-wise, what were you doing at the time? Like, what was your...
Well, I just moved to LA like a year before that. I was going back and forth from Ohio to LA, where I was living at first. Got into the union. And when I moved out to LA, wasn't a lot of work, because of course there's, veterans out there that's been doing it way longer than me, had connections in the know-how of what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I honestly don't even remember the audition for Sunday School. When I got the call, like, "Hey, you auditioned?" I'm like, "Did I? Okay, I thought it was a scam." So I figured that, when I got the call for Sunday School, we actually started filming something, and it didn't look like $1 production, but it didn't look like $1 million production, but we were doing something. And when you came in, I was like, okay, this is a climb. Okay, we're networking now, and things are starting to pick up, and it just felt good, But before that, it was like not too bright, for the for the future, in the way things were going.
Right. So I've talked about this on this channel a little bit before, but do you think, like, if you were talking to a young actor like coming up, would you recommend actors to be in LA?
Well, that depends on the time frame. Now, if you're talking about back then when I first came out there, like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, yes, you definitely want to do that. They had the East Coast thing, the West Coast thing, but then they had the Vancouver thing. A lot of productions were following the tax credits and stuff like that. So jobs at first were moving out of New York, going up to Canada on the east side of Canada. LA, things started going up to Vancouver, you know, and then they
Toronto.
were Toronto and stuff like that. And then they started going down to New Mexico. But there was, you know, the majority of the major stuff was still going on in Hollywood. If I was to tell someone then to be in LA to act, yes. Now, not so much Southeast is really blowing up, and there's a lot of good productions down here. It's kind of like, when I first moved down here, it felt like Hollywood when it first started. You know,
Yeah.
so coming down here with the knowledge I had from being in Hollywood or LA, it just made me feel like, you know, not that I was above anybody, but I had an idea of the business, you know.
Right.
Now, like I said, I love doing indie film, and there's not a lot of pay in indie film, if any,
Right.
you know, most of the time. So you have to try to balance out getting a background job here in the union, or get a non-union background job, shoot for a commercial, try to get a union gig, like a weekly thing or actual role or something like that, and then do the indie. And it was like, it was a lot of juggling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I left pretty much for the same reason. You know, I got to a place in my career where I felt like I'm not really doing studio stuff anyway. Like, and studio stuff's moving all over the place, and I'm paying whatever I was paying $14.50 a month for rent there, and you know, I have a mortgage out here that's like $200 a month less for a place that's like, you know, 10 times bigger.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. If you was going to get to that, how big your place was, you was paying more for out there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had I mean, I had my studio was tiny. Like, I mean, I was in a really cool part of Hollywood, but it was so small. If I was in my mid-20s, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But you know, you get to be over 40, you're like, I don't want to live like a college kid now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you can't.
Yeah. Edges of Darkness. So we shot it in the winter. I remember it being cold as shit.
Cold as hell, yes. It was cold. And it felt like we were shooting in a freezer. You know, and the doors are open in the thing and everything. I don't know if he talked about this, you know, on the podcast or whatever, as far as where we were shooting. It was like a weird little warehouse there, and they converted they built a little set with the rooms and stuff in there.
Yeah.
There was no heat in this place.
Nope.
So, yeah, there's like all the walls felt like they were made out of metal.
Yep.
And it was freaking freezing. So you got the cold breezes coming in. The only light you had was like a light out of sea stand or something like that. So you're standing over by that or huddling against, you know, everybody. And it was like, it was hell. It was hell.
It was really cold. And yeah, the producer on that movie, Stephen Ko, and if anybody out there knows Stephen Ko, can get me in contact with Stephen Ko. He just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. There was nothing, you know, there was no bad blood, nothing shady happened. We were friendly. It's just, you know, like 3-4 years after the movie was done, like just one day, he just like fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if he disappeared or what.
In my mind, Steve is somewhere in Hawaii. You know, he has that tan all the time, all year long. You know, in the wintertime, he keeps the tan. I don't understand how he did it, but in my mind, that's where he is, somewhere tropical.
Yeah, I think so. I would think so. And we never really, we never really figured out what he did for a living. And I think he liked that. He liked that air of mystery. Yeah. Like, you know, it had something to do with shipping, with like trucks or something, but he would always put it as, well, I'm in import-export.
I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't want to speculate anything, you know.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He was fun. And you know what? Like, the movie would not have happened without him, you know. I actually... You know, it wasn't my first movie, but in a lot of ways it was. You know, it was my second movie, but like it was the one that got me more work.
Right.
You know, if it wouldn't have been for that movie, I don't know if I'd be making movies today. So like, I feel like I owe my career to the guy in a way. Yeah. You know, he really made that happen. Put his money where his mouth was. Right. Like he and like a couple of friends that he works with built that set. Yeah. I was like, and at that point, I had never actually worked on a built set. Right. You know, so like I thought I was like, oh, this is it, man. I'm big time now. I got a built set. Yeah. You know, it was just this, you know, rickety thing, but it was cool.
Good. It was. I mean, it looked real good. If you look at it on film, it looks great. If you look at behind the scenes stuff, it looks great. But actually being there in that fucking cold, that was the worst. You know. I mean, I'm trying to think in my mind. I mean, hell, that set it had a hallway in it, in between the rooms and stuff like that. Front room, bedroom, hallway that was leading into a bathroom that wasn't there, that we, you know, cheated somewhere else in Burbank or whatever. Yeah. But outside, you know, they had the wardrobe set up and everything like that. It looked like a Hollywood set.
It did.
It really did, besides the cold.
Another thing that I did on this movie, it was like important to me, and I don't know exactly why, But, so I was shooting a lot of coverage, but I was doing scenes like in long takes. So like we wouldn't really break the scenes up, a lot of them. Like, like there was that scene with featured both you, Shamika, and Anna Marie. Anna Marie in her underwear, and like you and Shamika are coming in and out of the room. And I think the take was like maybe 9 minutes long. Did it as a single take. And then, of course it's cut up but we did that single take from like, I don't know, 4 different angles. Yeah. And then like go all the way through the scene. Yeah. I remember. Now, as an actor, do you like running like that? Like
I do, because honestly, getting into theater is what it was, and so you're used to that. And that's where you fall in love with acting and stuff like that. Getting into the character, actually moving around and doing all this cut, in my opinion, takes you out of the character.
Yeah, kills the energy.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so you're actually living this out multiple times, multiple angles, and then you're remembering your spots and you're remembering your actions and all this stuff and everything. And I mean, it was a lot of things that just made me feel comfortable doing that. And then working with Shamika and Anne Marie, it was like they were perfect for that.
I couldn't have asked for a better set of actors in that story. Like, I mean, I thought everybody was like, not to pat myself on the back, but everybody was well cast. Right. But then on top of it, like, it was my second movie. I didn't know a lot about picking actors. They come in the audition. I like the read on that, so you cast somebody. Right. But then you got these 3 people that worked well together, actually had chemistry together, brought a little more than what I was expecting even. Right. So I felt blessed for the cast.
Well, I felt blessed, and honestly, I was thinking, okay, they got 3 other parts in this movie. We're gonna blow them out the water. Everybody's gonna be watching this, and they're gonna be thinking about our characters in this right here, because it did, when we were doing it, it felt like a whole nother world into itself. Yeah. Even like I said, we didn't. My thing is that acting stuff. I don't read anybody else's parts. So I'm not reading the script. You give me a script, I'm not reading it. Right. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna find my character. I'm gonna highlight his name. Just find his name, highlight it. Go through the thing and everything. Okay. And then write down the scenes that I have, what pages or whatever, and then I close it. Take a break. Come back. Read through what I'm saying and not what anybody else saying, just what am I saying? Right. Then I come back. All that shit. Yeah. And I don't really do that so much yet until I go back and read what the other characters are saying in the scene. And then, now I have an understanding of what I'm saying. Now I need to go back and find out why I'm saying it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so I've done a few movies with you. I've never read none of your scripts. No, I'm not going to say I haven't read any of them. I don't read them from cover to cover.
I understand.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just focusing on what I'm doing.
You know what? Fuck you, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Well, you're not hiring me to be there. No,
it's totally cool.
And so, reading that, just understanding that character, and I really don't try to memorize the stuff. And I read it like the first week or so after I, do all the highlighting and stuff. I read my parts and everything like that for like the first week after I get the script. Then I don't read it anymore. Right. And so maybe about 3 to 5 days before we actually start shooting, then I'll read it again and try to get a better understanding for what I had before, see if anything's changed or anything like that, and then start trying to memorize it in the last 2 or 3 days. Because my thing was, I don't know if it's some type of mental thing I have with me or whatever. I don't know if I'm just going to forget or overdo it or whatever. You overthink things. It's like, that's why I hate auditioning. I hate it because you're thinking about, okay, my character that I'm in this audition, I have 3 words to say. I'm so sorry. There's like a million different ways you can say it, so like I go in here and then I do it. I'm not comfortable with it because was it the way I was supposed to say this? Was this the inflection I was supposed to have? You leave out in and you beat yourself up for a week or two. Like, they're not calling me back. I did it wrong. I should have did it the 5th way I did it instead of the 47th,
Well, and then on top of that, 90% sure that it wouldn't matter how the fuck you said it anyway, because they're looking for a type.
Exactly.
And you're either that type or you're not. Right. And then it don't matter.
Right.
And a lot of times if you are that type and you didn't sound like an asshole when you said it, whether it was right or not, you're going to get the part.
And it's weird. And that's what trying to figure out the casting director and all the other stuff in Hollywood. That's what, I have a thing against Hollywood. Not that I hate it, but I have a thing against it because it's so...
You're talking about like big Hollywood. Like Studio Hollywood.
Yeah, Studio Hollywood. And some, some indie too. Indie too, because, they're going to pick you for whatever reasons they have. But when I go in and do an audition, which is why I'm glad that I met you and I didn't even have to audition. Yeah. I mean, I came in and did a read for you after you already picked me.
Yeah, and I think that was more to like chemistry read with some.
He wanted to make sure I could actually read.
No, but like like Anna Marie wasn't picked. Shamika, oh wait, Shamika was picked. I think actually I met Shamika the exact same way as I met you. I was on another movie. I was DPing again, which is funny, man.
This guy is poaching, you know.
Dude, I am not a DP. I owned a camera.
Right.
And, there's all these indie movies. They're like, man, if you got a camera, all right, man, you're my DP.
Yeah, right.
And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm a DP.
Right.
I did like, I think I got like 4 or 5 director of photography
That's
credits.
crazy.
And I'm not a DP. But anyway, I was shooting a movie for Jean-Claude Lamar called Pastor Jones 2, Lord Save My Daughter. And Shamika was the lead in that, and it was really, or not the lead. She was the mother of the lead, which was really funny because Shamika was like early 20s, and this girl was maybe 15 or 16, I can't remember. But like Shamika was way too young to be a mother. But she had this like maternal way about her. So she got the role, and she killed it. I mean, she was too young, but she killed it. And I was just like, and she was so cool to work with. And I remember there was an incident on set, which I won't get into, but the way she handled it was so awesome. I was just like, oh man, she's great to work with. She's a good performer. I'll hire her. So like you and her were pretty much like picked ahead of time. And then Anna Marie we found through the audition process. So, we were talking a little bit about your guys' story blowing everybody else out of the water. And, it's been 12 years, man. Nobody cares. It did. It did. Like, nothing against anybody else that was in any of the other stories. But, and you know what, Blaine wrote the one story, and then I ended up, like, directing it. And, I wrote and directed the other one. But they weren't put together as well as the vampire story. And it reflected in the reviews. Like almost everybody was like, oh, that's a pretty cool story. They should have done a movie about that. Right.
Now, hopefully we might, come back to do that. Oh, that'd be nice.
Dude, I wrote a sequel to it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But it was like, I mean, it was big. It was like, it was like vampires with like samurai swords, and like it got crazy. It's some of the coolest action I've ever written. But it's just one of them things. Like I couldn't see pulling it off for like less than $1 million, and I can't see getting $1 million for that script. But it was cool though, and I just really even to this day, Stan and Stelly, man, I really like those characters, and my one regret about Edges of Darkness is that I didn't like hit the pause button, not do the anthology thing, and just concentrate on that story. I if I had it to do over again, that's what I would do.
I'm not going to say anything about the other guys. I think you were just like us. You wanted to get some other people up in the thing, compare yours against theirs, blow them out the water, and then
Well, I mean, like I said, they were all mine. It's just kind of mine. Like with Blaine's story, for example, and this is another regret on mine. Because like me and Blaine are really close, and we remained close. Like I actually got to give him a ton of credit for not like flipping out on that when the producer moved him off of directing. But again, if I had the whole thing to do over again, I feel like I should have like stepped in and been like, no, like we've already started shooting, let him finish. Because I honestly, at the end of the day, I think that like hitting the brakes thing and switching directors like half a day into the first shoot messed with the actors. It messed with the production. I think they did really well with it given the circumstances.
Oh yeah, I mean, it works.
They were getting 2 completely different sets of direction.
Right.
And anyway, I wish that I had left him or it wasn't me, it wasn't my decision, but I wish I would have fought for him to stay and as the director of that segment.
Yeah, I always wondered if Blaine wanted to stay as a director or if he really wanted to get in front of that camera because he had that scene in there where he was acting and he was like, hey, wait a minute, I think I like this better.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like, if you just want to talk like pure creative vision, I mean, and I'm not shitting on myself. I think I'm a solid director. I think I'm a good writer.
Oh, definitely.
But Blaine is like, he's like a pure artist. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I'm like an artist / business person. Right. And maybe even a little bit more on the business these days. But Blaine, he was pure, like it was just he's an artist,
Yeah.
you know, and like he was the one that I always thought over these years like Blaine's gonna like blow up.
Right,
you know?
right. As far as Blaine's scene, I don't know if he directed it. I know he acted it.
Mm-hmm.
But that thing could have been a whole nother, you know, B movie, some Ed Wood type of thing that you could have remade, you know, into a feature.
Which scene?
The scene where he was like the scientist dude or whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
Dr. Metal. I totally forgot about that.
Soon, my dear, I shall have super strength, astounding wit, and a full head of glorious hair. The whole world will see at the International Expo for revolutionary science. I shall be scientist of the century.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Yeah.
And that Dr. Metal, Mr. Pride, that's 100% him.
Yeah,
like,
see, that's crazy.
He wrote that, he acted it, he directed it. That is, I can't take any credit for that. That is him.
Yeah, he tapped into this Ed Wood on that one. That one right there. And to me, honestly, like I said, I love my parts in there, of course. You know?
Yeah.
Even though I'm critical of them, but I watch them and I love them. But that's thing he did it there. It's like it stands out to me.
It does.
It really does. It's strange, but it's like, wow, that shit was kind of hot.
I think that what happened on the third story, well, I mean, I know what happened on the third story. So initially we had a different director and a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I had worked with a couple other horror filmmakers, DP'd my first horror movie for him, and it was called Legend of the Sand Squatch.
Okay.
It was about like a
not
desert,
sass, but sand. I got
sand
you.
Squatch. He was a desert sand Sasquatch. And Lola directed that movie, and she was going to write and direct a segment of Edges of Darkness.
Right.
And I honestly don't even remember what the story was or what it was about, but it was cool. And all the three stories were all set in that same apartment complex, so they fit together. And about, I want to say 3 weeks before production, it might have been 4, she got an offer to like solo direct a full feature.
Right.
And she couldn't turn that down.
Right.
So she had to do that and drop out.
Right.
So in a real short amount of time, I had to come up with another story and write it and direct it. And that became the Antichrist story.
That's awesome. Do you cook?
You know, it's probably the second best of them, but you know, I didn't spend the same amount of time developing the characters. I honestly, you know, we had no friction on set or anything. Like me and Michelle got along really well, and Michelle's a great actress. She's really good, and she's pretty, and like she was right for the part.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I feel like in retrospect, I completely misdirected her. You know, or my method of directing didn't click with her. Like I was somebody at that time, and I'm still kind of like this. I like to, at least through initial takes, I kind of leave actors alone, like completely. Like I won't even tell them if I like it or not, and let them kind of find their voice, and then make adjustments if it's wrong.
Right.
And I think she wanted more initial direction, or more like result-oriented direction, like what I was going for. And I was coming from it like this, you know, I was reading all the director books and like, don't give result-oriented direction.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So I'm sitting here trying to be this like, you know, like director, and I think it was wrong for her, you know, or whatever I was doing was not right for her. And so I feel, and like I said, I'm totally happy with her performance, but I feel like she really wasn't.
Yeah, well, I hope that's not the case with her or whatever. And I can tell you, since, you know, I was there, and I, you know, for everybody, you know, watching or whatever, of course I was there for my scenes. Yeah. And it was, you know, scenes were shot on different days and everything like that. But I was there on set for the Antichrist scenes, and those are ones I watched more than mine. Even though I love my scenes, I watched those scenes more because, if you know, a little known fact, the Antichrist was my son. So it was my youngest son. So he cast my youngest son in there. I don't know if he just wanted to keep me around set or whatever, but he played the Antichrist. And Michelle, she, as far as, you know, like I said, I watched that probably more than mine. I think, as far as your directing, I think you did good in letting her do that. Maybe she didn't, you know, maybe she expressed that to you, or she whatever. But
she never did. I'm honestly just assuming, and I'm assuming a lot because you know, I'm basing, like I'm sitting here saying I think she was unhappy with it, but she never said that. She never expressed it. I'm basing that on like the amount of promotion and the amount of stuff that was done afterwards.
Right.
Like she never said, "Hey, I'm ashamed of this" or anything like that. But that's kind of the vibe I got.
Right. Well, I think, you know, just my opinion, I don't think you did bad as a director. I think you did good.
You did the right thing. I guess we'll see.
Because in my opinion, her character came across with the right amount of attitude, the right amount of, concern for what she was doing and who she was dealing with in the scene and stuff like that. That was believable to me. So I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
So
I did too, and I was pretty, like, I was not unhappy with any of it, at least not on the way we executed it. I feel like I maybe did some of the actors a misjustice in that from the writing standpoint. Like, it just wasn't, I wrote it in a couple of days.
Right.
It wasn't like, fully formed, but that's the one actor-director relationship that I've had where I feel like I kind of failed the actor a little bit. Not, I'm always self-conscious about stuff, but
again, to see that's what you're thinking. As a director, it's almost like the audition thing with an actor.
And I'm putting words in her mouth. We've honestly never spoken about it after the movie, so I don't. For all I know, she's like super happy with it.
Yeah, hopefully, because like I said, I thought it turned out really good. I really liked it and everything like that. But if I was you, I wouldn't second guess it. I think you did a great job, and it turned out, in my opinion, as it should have.
So the distribution on that movie was just a mess.
Yeah.
I didn't know, just, it was my second movie, and I should have known a little bit better, but I didn't, and we gave it to a sales agent, Shoreline Entertainment, and they got it placed with Anchor Bay. It was a major distributor at the time, and they got it everywhere. I mean, you walked into Blockbuster Video, and they had like 5 or 6 copies lining the shelf. I think there were 12 at Hollywood Video. Yeah. I mean, it was that was cool. And
I think I went into one of those and took one of those little dividers with the picture on there and everything. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this was like before selfies, and I was still like, I was like, get a fucking camera, man. I wish I still had one of those, because that shit don't exist anymore. You don't get a movie like that,
right?
And you could tell. Back in those days, kids, you walk into a video store and you could kind of tell a movie's popularity based on how many copies were lined up on a shelf. So if you had Forrest Gump, there'd be like 20 copies, and then if you'd have like some little indie movie, there'd be like 1. And they would have like a section sometimes, and it would be like the indie movies, and then it would be like just like one little section, and it would just be like 21 copy movies. Right. But Edge of the Darkness was like 5 or 6,
which is good for an indie film. Yeah, that's damn good. Man.
I mean, there were big budget. There's a movie called Bulletproof Heart with Anthony LaPaglia and Mimi Rogers. Great movie if you haven't seen it. But that movie had 1 copy. It was $1 million budget with A-list stars and 1 copy. Edge of the Darkness, fucking 12. So I was like, I don't know. I felt good about that.
Yeah, you should.
But what happened, and what I've talked a lot about this on this channel, is like, you gotta look through your contracts. You don't have to be a lawyer, but you need to understand some basics. Right. And if you have a $20,000 movie that you're giving to a distributor, and the distributor is putting like a $35,000 sales cap on it, you're most likely never going to make anybody on that movie. Right. Because like a $20,000 movie, the chances of it like crossing that threshold and earning a profit are low. Now, knowing what I know now, I would have saw that contract and said, no, red line this, red line that, take it out or don't take the movie. Right. And most of them will work with you. They'll take it out. Right. But I didn't. So, and that additional fee thing killed me. Yeah. Because we shot that movie on HDV, which is like a hybrid between DV and HD. It was that Sony Z1U. Really liked the look of it, but it puts it out in this really weird Kodak, and I had so much trouble delivering it. And they ended up having to go back and like remaster the file, which honestly should only cost a few $1,000, but they charged us like $15,000. Wow. And they charged us a shitload for a new trailer, which basically was just my trailer beat for beat, just redone. In the first quarter, like I got a sales report. It made like $96,000. Right. Sales. We saw 0. Yeah. Not a penny. Yeah. None of it. $20,000 movie made $96,000, and the producers saw goose egg. Right. Right. And then I don't know, maybe 3 years later, we get our first check, and it's like $1,200. and I think we might have got 1 or 2 follow-ups around that same amount, and then just nothing. So business-wise, it never quite worked out.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, like a lot of streaming like Amazon purged it at one point, so like you can't even find it as Edges of Darkness anymore.
Right. Really?
I re-released it under a title, Zombieland Tales.
Well, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was up like that for about maybe a year, 8 months. I made a little bit, but not much. And then it got purged again. And then I, like, just recently, like maybe 6 months ago, I re-released it through Film Hub again under a different title. Now it's Apocalypse Blues. And, and you know, I'm not trying to like pull a fast one or nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a movie that I would like to be out there, that I would like available, and they just kept making it unavailable. So, you know, now it's on some other platforms. So even if Amazon, you know, gets rid of it, it'll still be on the other ones. Right. So it's there, you know.
Yeah. And I got to say this, you know, as far as the distribution and all that and everything, from the beginning, you were upfront with me. And I was basically, you know, at that time, I just wanted to act, you know. And then I got, while we were working on Edges, I was working on another project, short that me and my friend Arnold Chun was worked on, called Eli's Liquor Store. Got in some festivals and won some awards and stuff like that. And we, you know, since wanted to make it into a feature and all this. But the thing was, I started changing my, what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to act, but now I want to write, and I also want to direct. So I'm changing, you know, and I'm not understanding how all that works and everything. And then when you get through the festival world and they ask you questions like, well, what school did you go to, this, that, and other. And I hadn't been to school for film or anything. So I ended up going, I was like, well, you know, I haven't been to any film school, but we're still here in the festival and we're getting awards and getting, you know, seen and stuff. So I decided to go back to school. And I went to LACC, Los Angeles City College, and got a degree in directing. Well, certificate in directing. I ain't gonna say degree. I got a certificate in directing, did my 2 years there and everything like that. But, you know, I took a course in business aspects of motion picture and cinema. And going back to what I was saying about you being upfront with me, you did share the spreadsheets and everything with me.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I remember. And I was like, why is he showing me this shit? I don't know anything about this. He's like, I just want you to, basically, this is how he was, Jason. You know, he's very honest and everything. And you don't want to admit that, you know, how he is. But he was like, you know, this is what the movie did. This is how long it's been out. This is the quarters, and this is this, and this is what they made, and this is what they didn't pay us, and this, that, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. What the I didn't sign a contract, so I'm not really expecting any money or anything like that. So why are you showing me this? I say that to say this, you know, going through school and learning about the business aspects and all that and everything, the distribution, you start to, you know, you got to understand the spreadsheets. Yeah. And especially if you're going to go in those different arenas and everything like that. You can't just keep making films and they sit on your shelf. You got to get them out there some kind of way. Yeah. And so when I did start getting into some of the projects I wanted to try and do, I reached out to Jason. And Jason sat down. I know he was working on other things and he didn't really give a shit about what I was doing, but he took the time to listen to what I was asking and give me honest answers. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Projects that I was in that he worked on, he told me all the particulars, all the distribution, everything, all the avenues, gave me some references of people to contact. He still gave me the information. You still try to advise me on things. And that was throughout the years and everything, all the way up until we haven't worked on a movie, 10, 11 years or more?
No, it was 2012 was Monsters in the Woods. Well, that's when it came out. Yeah. They made it 2011. We shot it, so like 9 years.
I'm just saying that to say this. As far as a person, that's why I still stay in touch with you, because you always, regardless of what I was doing, if it was your project or not, you always try to help.
First off, I want to thank Alonzo for joining me on this. It was really cool to catch up with him. I hadn't seen him in a long time. So, the business side. The budget for Edges of Darkness was right around $25,000. The shoot lasted approximately 3 weekends or 6 days. See, each segment of the film shot over its own weekend. Although I did end up shooting another half day a few months later to finish up some of the flashbacks in the Antichrist story. It was intended to be a straight anthology, each segment being its own separate thing. But somewhere in the middle of production, someone somewhere told the executive producer that anthology horror was not selling well. Now, I don't know that there was even any truth behind this, but the choice was made to combine the stories into one single narrative. Kind of like Pulp Fiction, with the stories all winding in and out of one another. Now, they definitely weren't written to accommodate this, so I made as many adjustments on set as I could, and we decided just to try to do the rest in editing. It took me around 6 months to edit these separate stories into the best version of a coherent whole that I could. The movie was released in 2008. Anchor Bay was the US distributor, but it also got released worldwide, doing really well in Japan and Germany. It even got released in Australia by Lionsgate. To this day, it was probably the biggest initial release that I've had. Years later, I was able to re-release the movie under the title Zombieland Tales on Amazon. But it was later purged, and finally, very recently, it was released once again, hopefully for the last time, under the title Apocalypse Blues. If you're looking for it, that's how to find it now. Subscribe.